this is Vader Reviews. We are honored that you would join us. Before we begin, I want to let you all know YouTube hasn't been notifying me of some of your comments. I just discovered this last weekend, and I was most displeased. Rest assured, I was never ignoring any of you. I am going to go back and try to track down each of these comments so I can answer you all. Interacting with you is very important to me. But speaking of comments, as you may have noticed, I'm not here tonight as usual. That is because we have just begun principal photography on our Star Wars fan film, Fallen Jedi, and I am currently on location. But I will be back tomorrow evening to speak with you all. But in the meantime, I'm counting on all of my loyal soldiers of the Empire to share this review in my absence tonight. Now with that out of the way, let's move along. Seeing as how October is the month for going out at night wearing masks, I thought it was fitting to review The Mask of Zorro. Directed by Martin Campbell and released on July 17, 1998 by TriStar Pictures. Based on the enduring hero created by American pulp writer Johnston McCulley, who made his first swashbuckling appearance in The Curse of Capistrano in 1919. Not only does this bold renegade carve a Z with his blade, he boasts over 40 films, including those made by film legends Douglas Fairbanks and Tyrone Powers, but also 10 television series, the most iconic of which starred Guy Williams from 1957 to 1959. But he is also the precursor to the modern era of superheroes, being one of the earliest masked Avengers in literature, who fittingly enough, since he's a swordsman, has a dual identity. Batman in particular being heavily inspired by the brave Bandito, which makes it ironic that you basically have a Batman Beyond situation going on in The Mask of Zorro, as a troubled young man takes up the mantle of an older, jaded hero in black, with his very own wizard cave hideout under his house. Our film begins with Zorro in the twilight years of his career, played by Anthony Hopkins. The Masked Avenger has been the guardian of peace and justice in the Pueblo for years, but he's getting too old for that sort of thing. And after his latest brush with death, he plans to retire and take it easy, maybe catch a few Z's. But our villain of the picture figures out the old fox's secret identity and pays him a visit. Turns out El Turdo Grande here has the hots for Zorro's wife, but she has the bad habit of jumping in front of loaded guns. So the Fiend has to settle for stealing Zorro's kid, imprisoning the bold renegade, and burning down his hacienda, Batman Begins style. The big baddie is played by Stuart Wilson, who I'll always remember as Walker from Ninja Turtles 3, which is ironic since his title and name in this film is Don Raphael. We skip ahead a few years and meet our hero of the film, Alejandro, who will become Zorro 2.0. Benicio del Toro and Andy Garcia were considered for the role, but it ultimately fell to Antonio Banderas, who, contrary to popular belief, is not the first Spanish actor to play Zorro. That distinction goes to Jose Suarez in 1953's Lawless Mountain. Interestingly, this could have been a much different film, as executive producer Steven Spielberg was initially set to direct. And while that may sound pretty wizard, this early version of the film would have seen none other than Tom Cruise as Zorro. But then again, Zorro is pretty famous for smiling while he fights, and Tiny Tom certainly can grin with the best of them. Raul Julia was reportedly considered for the role of De La Vega, because if this face doesn't scream hero, I don't know what does. Back to the movie. After Old Man Zorro hears Ralph has crawled out of the sewers to plague California once again, he breaks out of prison to settle some old scores. And let's be honest here, De La Vega's story is pretty much the Count of Monte Cristo. Rich guy's jealous friend has the hots for his wife, imprisons our hero who escapes years later, hiding in the body bag of a dead fellow inmate to seek revenge on his old foe, who is also raising his child. I highly recommend The Count of Monte Cristo with Jim Caviezel, by the way. I still say he would have made a totally wizard Batman. Another bit of Bat trivia is that Anthony Hopkins was offered the role of Alfred in Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins in 2005, but declined. Back to Zorro, though. Grandpa Zorro meets Alejandro and agrees to train him to fight, so he can take up the mantle and protect California from the likes of Don Raphael and the villainous cavalryman Captain Love. Turns out there's gold in them there hills, and that's what Ralph and Discount Custer are looking for. And I was trying to figure out why I hated this guy so much. Then it suddenly hit me. Although, when Captain Love goes for a drink, things get pretty weird since he has the odd habit of keeping heads of his enemies in a jar of booze. I've heard of adding Mexican flavoring to things, but this is ridiculous. Come to think of it, Captain Love invited the wrong Zorro for a drink, considering Anthony Hopkins is arguably most famous for chewing the scenery as Hannibal Lecter. Along the way, a budding romance begins between Alejandro and De La Vega's long-lost daughter, Elena. Penelope Cruz, Selma Hayek, and even singer Shakira were considered for the role of Elena, but Catherine Zeta-Jones won the role upon the suggestion of Steven Spielberg. And can I just say, if they had made a Wonder Woman movie in the 90s... Fun fact, Jones, Banderas, and Anthony Hopkins trained with legendary sword master Bob Anderson 10 hours a day for 2 months prior to shooting. And where this film truly shines, aside from its art direction, cinematography, and score by James Horner, is in the imaginative sword fights. As a youngling, I was always a huge Zorro fan. Let's face it, all of the coolest characters wear a black cape, boots and gloves, and sword fight. It's just a fact. And while I've never seen a swashbuckling film with enough sword fights to suit my inner 6-year-old, The Mask of Zorro does have an impressive array of action and stunt work. If you're a fan of fencing and classic adventure, be sure to check out the films of the 1930s and 40s that inspired George Lucas to create Star Wars, such as Captain Blood, The Seahawks, and of course, The Mark of Zorro from 1940, starring Tyrone Power, Linda Darnell, and the most dangerous blade in Hollywood, Basil Rathbone. In the end, The Mask of Zorro is an exciting swashbuckling adventure, a tale of betrayal, revenge, romance, and redemption. And while it can be a little cheesy at times, what do you expect from the director of GoldenEye? So for a sense of fun, stunning sword fights, and sweeping romantic film score by James Horner, I give The Mask of Zorro 4 out of 5 Death Stars. The force is strong with this one. Again, since I am on location for our first day of shooting on our Star Wars fan film, Fallen Jedi, I won't be here tonight, so I'm counting on all of you, my loyal soldiers of the Empire, to share this video with your friends. Also, everyone who donates to Vader Reviews will have their name featured on the end credits of our film, as a thank you for not only making it possible, but for keeping the channel alive. A link to our PayPal is in the description of this video. Donate today and become a hero of the Empire. And always remember, you don't know the power of the dark side.